What would you do if someone was poisoning your own mother and nobody believed you? I never thought a few garden gnomes could turn into a life and death battle. But when you live in a neighborhood ruled by HOA tyrants, the rules don't matter. Only power does. And Karen Thompson, she had all the power. She ran our HOA like a dictatorship, slapping homeowners with ridiculous fines for the tiniest violations. Mailbox the wrong shade of blue? $200 fine. A wind chime too loud. Another $500. She called it maintaining property values. I called it financial terrorism. But when her harassment targeted my sick mother, things went too far. It all started when Karen rolled up to our house in her shiny black Lexus, her perfectly manicured nails tapping impatiently on her clipboard. I was in the yard, watering my mum's prized rose bushes, when she barely rolled down her tinted window. Karen, fake sweet voice. "Oh, Alex! Just a friendly reminder, those garden gnomes in your yard are a clear violation of Section 8, Paragraph 12. You'll need to remove them by Friday, or it's a $200 fine per gnome." I gritted my teeth. Me, Karen, they've been here for 7 years. My dad bought them for my mom every birthday before he passed. Her smile never reached her eyes. Karen, rules are rules, Alex. We can't have tacky decorations ruining the aesthetic of Pinecrest Gardens. As her Lexus reversed out of our driveway, I counted them, 8 gnomes, $1,600 in fines. Money we didn't have, especially with Mom's hospital bills piling up. That night I carefully wrapped each cherished gnome in newspaper and stored them in the garage. It felt like I was burying pieces of our past. But Karen wasn't done with. As by Monday, we got another violation notice. Your mailbox is not the approved shade of midnight azure. Please repaint it immediately. I stared at the paper in disbelief. It was just a mailbox, but I repainted it anyway because I couldn't risk another fine. Then it was our bird feeder, then our wind chimes, then the height of our hedges. Each time Karen visited, Mom seemed worse afterward. She'd get more tired, more confused, more sick. At first I thought it was just stress. But then something happened that changed everything. One evening I was taking out the trash when I noticed Doug Thompson, Karen's husband, standing near our water meter. He looked suspicious. The second he saw me, he quickly walked away, pretending to check his phone. Me. "Everything okay, Doug?" Doug, too quickly. "Oh, just walking the dog." He didn't have a dog. That night Mom couldn't keep dinner down. She hunched over the toilet, her skin looking yellow under the bathroom light. Me, "Mom, we need to go to the hospital." She refused at first, but when she nearly collapsed on the way to bed, I forced her into the car. At the emergency room, the doctors ran test after test, but found nothing conclusive. "Doctor, could be a virus or something environmental. Have there been any changes in your home recently?" I froze. My mind flashed back to Doug standing by our water meter. Something was very, very wrong. The next morning, I stepped onto our porch and saw Mrs. Rodriguez, our neighbor, watching me from across the street. She leaned over the fence and whispered, "Mrs. Rodriguez, Alex, the Thompsons don't even have a dog." I felt a chill run down my spine. Me, "You saw him too?" She nodded, lowering her voice even more. Mrs. Rodriguez, "Listen, I shouldn't be telling you this, but Karen's been targeting homeowners who opposed her in the last HOA election. Your mom, she was the only one who spoke up against her plan to double our HOA dues." I staggered backward, my heart pounding. Me, "Are you saying she's doing this on purpose?" She didn't answer, but her expression said everything. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Mom coughing in the next room. Her breathing was shallow and her skin felt clammy. I got up, grabbed a flashlight and walked out to the water meter. As I crouched down, something caught my eye. Tiny droplets of blue liquid on the rocks near the pipe. I reached out, touched. One and smelled it, chemical. My phone buzzed. It was the hospital. Nurse, Alex, your mother just collapsed in the doctor's office. We're running a toxicology screen now. The hospital was cold, too quiet. Machines beeped softly, and my mother, the strongest woman I knew, lay unconscious in a hospital bed. Her skin was pale, her breathing shallow. IV tubes snaked from her arms. Dr. Patel, serious tone. Her kidney function has dropped to 40%. If this continues, she may need dialysis, possibly even a transplant. Me, desperate. What's causing this? The doctor hesitated, then sighed. Dr. Patel, we're running toxicology tests now, but I'll be honest, this doesn't look like a natural illness. I gripped the railing by my mother's bed, my stomach twisting into knots. This doesn't look like a natural illness, the words echoed in my head. I drove home in a daze, my fingers gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. As I pulled into the driveway, something caught my eye, tiny blue droplets. Right near our water meter, I knelt down, reaching out to touch one. It smelled off, chemical. My heart pounded. Doug had been right here, lurking by this exact spot the night before Mom collapsed. Suddenly, I wasn't just suspicious anymore. New. I ran inside, grabbed a clean glass jar, and carefully collected a sample of our tap water. If something's in there, I'm going to find out. That night, I installed a hidden security camera in the oak tree beside the meter. Me, muttering, "Come on, Doug, I dare you." The next morning, my phone buzzed with a security alert. Motion detected at water meter. I clicked play, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Doug, he crouched by the meter, looking over his shoulder. Then he pulled out a small bottle, poured something into our water line, and walked away like nothing happened. Karen? She was waiting in their SUV, engine running, watching everything. I staggered backward, gripping my phone. They're poisoning us. They're actually trying to kill us. I didn't waste a second. I took the water sample to a local independent lab and explained the situation. Lab tech concerned. We'll run a basic screening right now. Full results in 48 hours. An hour later, my phone rang. Lab tech, shaken voice. Alex, I don't know how to say this, but there's ethylene glycol in your water. Me, confused. Ethylene glycol? Lab tech, antifreeze. It's colorless, odorless, and in low doses. It causes confusion, dizziness, organ failure. In high doses, it kills. Me. How much was in the sample? Lab tech. Enough to slowly poison someone over weeks. The symptoms match what you described. About your mother, I clenched my fists. Karen and Doug weren't just harassing us, they were trying to get rid of us. I drove straight to the police station, gripping my phone with the video footage. Me, angry, desperate. I have proof. I caught them on camera poisoning our water. My mom is in the hospital right now because of them. Detective Rivera took my phone, studying the footage. Then she frowned. Detective Rivera, the video shows Doug at your meter, but it's hard to tell what he's pouring. Me, are you kidding me? Detective Rivera sighs. We need direct evidence linking them to the chemical. Me, furious. My mother is dying. What more do you need? Detective Rivera, I'm sorry, Alex, but unless we catch them in the act or find a solid link, there's not much we can do. I stared at her, my hands shaking with rage. They're poisoning my mother, and you're telling me you can't do anything until it's too late. She lowered her voice, looking me straight in the eye. Detective Rivera, if you get me something more concrete, I swear I'll take them down. I walked out of the station, my heart pounding. I had the video, I had the lab results, and still, the law wasn't enough to stop them. Fine. If the system wasn't going to protect us, then I would. Imagine uncovering the truth, only for your enemies to turn the entire system against you. What would you do if your own neighborhood tried to ruin your life just to silence you? The next morning, I stepped outside and instantly knew something was wrong. Me, muttering, "What the?" A bright red notice was taped to my front door. Violation warning. Failure to comply will result in escalating fines and possible legal action. I ripped it down and read through it. Total HOA fines, $375, $500 for an unapproved mailbox color, $750 for excessive grass height, $100 to $200 for an unauthorized security system, $825 for failure to maintain community aesthetics. Community aesthetics. My mother was fighting for her life in the hospital, and these people were fining me for not mowing the lawn. Karen's message was loud and clear. Shut up, or we'll make your life hell. That afternoon, I tried to leave to visit my mom, except I couldn't. My driveway was blocked. 3 large concrete barriers had been placed right in front of my house. Me, furious, calling HOA. What the hell is this? Karen, fake sympathy. Oh, Alex, it seems your driveway is on HOA-owned land. We had to close it for safety reasons. Me, that's bullshit, Karen, and you know it. Karen, laughing. Softly, rules are rules. She hung up, my fists clenched. They weren't just trying to push me out, they were trying to trap me. That night, another bright red notice appeared on my door. New. Violation, unauthorized security cameras. Immediate removal required. They knew. They knew I had caught Doug on camera, and now they were trying to erase the evidence, me, laughing bitterly. Yeah, nice try. Instead of removing my cameras, I installed 3 more, hidden ones. If they came back, I'd catch them from every angle. The next morning, I walked outside and froze. Someone had spray-painted a single word across my garage in huge black letters. Liar. I could feel my blood boiling. Neighbors peered out from their windows. Some looked concerned, others amused. Neighbor muttering, maybe you shouldn't have stirred things up, Alex. Me, are you kidding me? They're trying to kill my mom. The neighbor shook his head and hurried away. That's when I realized Karen had been poisoning more than just our water. She was poisoning the entire community against me. That evening, my phone rang. Caller ID, Malcolm Reed, HOA treasurer. Me, picking up. If this is about your bogus fines, you can shove. Malcolm, nervous whisper. Alex, listen to me. You're making powerful enemies. Karen is... she's dangerous. You don't know what she's capable of. Me, mocking. Oh, I know exactly what she's capable of. That's why I'm not stopping. Malcolm, then you should know the board is preparing a legal case against you for defamation and false accusations. If you keep this up, you won't just lose your house, you'll go to jail. Me, let me guess. The same corrupt judge who plays golf with Karen's husband every Sunday? Malcolm, silence. Me, yeah, that's what I thought. I hung up. I stood on my porch, staring at the fake violations, the concrete barriers, the graffiti on my garage, and I made a decision. Me, low, dangerous voice. Karen, you wanted a war? Fine, let's go to war. Because what she didn't know, I had one final move, and once I played it, the entire HOA would come crashing down. After Malcolm's call, I knew one thing for sure. I had to hit them where it hurt. That's when I remembered something my dad had once mentioned years ago about our neighborhood. Dad, years ago. We don't get city water, Alex. The HOA gets it from a private company. They own the water rights. A private company, a dangerous idea sparked in my head. I grabbed my laptop and started digging. Company name, Clearwater LLC, status, struggling, in deep debt, bingo. They were barely staying afloat after their owner passed away. They were selling assets, and guess what was up for grabs? The entire water supply for Pinecrest Gardens. Karen and her corrupt HOA board relied on this company. But what if I bought it first? I called my old college friend Jamie, now an environmental lawyer. Me, hypothetically speaking, how much would it cost to buy out a failing water company? Jamie, hypothetically, a lot. But in bankruptcy proceedings, it could be way less than you think. Me, define way less. He named a number. It made my stomach drop. Jamie, hesitant. Alex, man, this is a huge risk. We're talking your life savings, your home equity, even your 401k. Me, quietly. What's money compared to my mother's life? Silence. Jamie, softly. You're serious about this? Me, dead serious. I spent the next 3 days doing nothing but paperwork, maxed out my savings, took out a home equity loan, cashed out my 401k, penalties be damned. Then I made the call. Me, I'm ready to buy Clearwater LLC. The bankruptcy attorney was shocked. Attorney, wait, you want to buy it? Why, me? Just tell me where to sign. I own the water now. 2 weeks later, I sat in a freezing cold conference room, signing the final paperwork. I was now the legal owner of Clearwater LLC, which meant I controlled every drop of water in Pinecrest Gardens, including Karen Thompson's house. The announcement, 400% water rate increase. I drafted an official HOA-wide notice and mailed it to every board member. Notice, effective immediately, water rates for all HOA members will increase by 400%. This is due to administrative adjustments within Clearwater LLC. It was perfectly legal, and there was nothing they could do about it. That night, my phone exploded with calls. Malcolm Reed, HOA treasurer, HOA board members, even Karen. I let them all go to voicemail. Then at 7 a.m. there was a furious pounding on my front door. Karen Thompson. She was fuming. Karen, screaming, "You can't do this!" Me, calmly sipping coffee. "Oh, but I already did." Karen, waving. The water bill in my face. "This is extortion." Me, mocking. "Oh, kind of like slowly poisoning an elderly woman?" Her face went white. For the first time, she looked scared. By mid-afternoon, the HOA board called for an emergency meeting. Karen's mass text, "All residents must attend. We're under attack." That night, the community center was packed. Over 100 people. Karen stood in front, dressed in her usual power suit, pacing back and forth. Karen, angrily, "This is an act of war." HOA member, nervous. "Wait, is this even legal?" Karen, "Of course not, he's just trying to destroy the HOA. Me, calmly from the back, "Actually, it's completely legal." The room fell silent. I walked to the front, hands in my pockets. Me, "I own Clearwater LLC now, which means I own your water. And if you don't like my rates, well, you can always find another water provider." HOA member, "But you're the only provider." Me, grinning. "Exactly." Karen's eyes burned with rage. "Karen, what do you want?" I smirked. Me, "Oh, don't worry. I'll tell you at the next HOA meeting." They tried to silence me. They tried to make me the villain. But tonight, I was about to expose the truth. And when I did, there would be no coming back for them. The HOA emergency meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. By 6:45, the community center was already overflowing. Neighbors packed into the room, murmuring in confusion and frustration. Neighbor 1, "What's this all about?" Neighbor 2, "Karen said some lunatic took over the water company." Neighbor 3, "I heard it's about poisoning? What the hell is going on?" At 6:59, Karen Thompson walked onto the stage, dressed in her signature red blazer, trying to look powerful. She grabbed the microphone and, in her most dramatic voice, announced, "Karen, fake concern, we are gathered here today because our community is under attack. A water terrorist has taken control of our most precious resource." She pointed directly at me. "Karen, Alex Morgan has manipulated the system to hold our entire neighborhood hostage. He is demanding outrageous sums of money for water, his water. This is nothing more than greed and extortion." The room erupted in whispers. I walked toward the front, slowly, deliberately. Me, calmly. "Extortion? Is that what we're calling it, Karen?" Karen, smirking, "It's exactly what it is." Me, funny. because I was under the impression that extortion is what happens when someone poisons an elderly woman's water supply to force her out of her home. The room went silent. Karen laughing nervously. What? That's absurd. You're just trying to turn people against me. Me, grinning. Oh, I'm not trying, Karen. I'm about to succeed. I reached into my bag and pulled out 3 manila folders. Folder number 1, lab results. Folder number 2, security footage folder. Number 3, witness statements. I laid them out on the table for everyone to see. Me. Let's start with the lab results. I held up the paper for the entire room to see. Me. This is a certified lab test confirming that our home's water supply contained ethylene glycol, otherwise known as antifreeze. Neighbor whispering, wait, antifreeze, that stuff is deadly. Me. Yes, it is. And guess what? The levels increased every single time Karen and her husband Doug were seen near my water meter. Karen's face started to pale. Karen, laughing nervously, This is ridiculous. You have no proof it was us. I pulled out folder number 2, me. Actually, Karen, I do. I grabbed my laptop, connected it to the projector, and pressed play. On the big screen, the entire room watched in silence. Footage number 1. Doug Thompson standing by my water meter at 2:13 a.m. Footage number 2. Doug crouching down, pouring liquid from a small bottle into the pipes. Footage number 3. Karen sitting in her SUV, engine running, watching. Pause. Me. That's your husband, isn't it, Karen? Karen, stammering. That doesn't prove anything. He could have been checking for a leak. Me. A leak? At 2 a.m. with a mysterious bottle in his hand? Karen, you can't prove what was in that bottle. I pulled out folder number 3. Me. You're right, Karen, I can't, but the police can. The room gasped. I flipped the folder open. Inside were signed witness statements from multiple neighbors. Neighbor 1, my dog died after Karen threatened me over holiday decorations. Neighbor 2, my kids were sick for weeks after I complained about HOA fees. Neighbor 3, every person Karen targeted had unexplained health problems. This can't be a coincidence. The room exploded with voices. Neighbor, oh my God. Neighbor, she was poisoning people. Neighbor, she killed my dog. Karen and Doug's faces drained of color. For the first time, they were the ones cornered. Karen scrambled for control. Karen shouting, this is a lie. He's manipulating you. Neighbor, shut up, Karen. Neighbor, my mother got sick too after arguing with you. Neighbor, how many people did you hurt? The entire HOA board turned to Malcolm Reed, the HOA treasurer. Neighbor, Malcolm, did you know about this? Malcolm was sweating. Malcolm, voice shaking. I just thought it was rumors. Neighbor, rumors? My kid was in the hospital. Malcolm, you knew. That was it. The crowd turned violent. Neighbor, call the cops. Neighbor, get them out of here. Karen grabbed Doug's hand and tried to run, but the doors burst open. 2 police officers stormed in. Officer Martinez, Karen and Doug Thompson, you're under arrest for felony poisoning and reckless endangerment. The room erupted. Neighbor, finally! Neighbor, lock them up! Neighbor, monsters! Karen screamed as the cops slammed the cuffs onto her wrists. Karen, sobbing, you can't do this! I built this community! I'm innocent! The cops dragged her out. As they shoved her into the squad car, she locked eyes with me, Karen spitting, I'll destroy you! Me, smirking, too late, sweetheart. You already destroyed yourself. The squad car drove off. The community stood in stunned silence. Then one by one, they started clapping. They thought they had won. They thought I had no proof. But then I received an email that changed everything, and when I hit send, their entire world collapsed. It was 3:42 a.m. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Check your email. You'll thank me later. Weird. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, my stomach already twisting in suspicion. I opened my laptop, logged into my inbox, and there it was, an anonymous email. Subject: thought you'd like to see this. Attachment: Thompson confession, MP4. I hesitated. I didn't know who sent it. I didn't know if it was real, but my gut told me to press play. The screen flickered, a dimly lit garage, a hidden camera, angled toward a workbench cluttered with bottles and containers. Doug Thompson stood there, holding a bottle of antifreeze. Doug grumbling, "These damn troublemakers, first the fence guy, now the gnome guy." Karen entered the frame, sipping wine, grinning. Karen smirking, "Oh, Doug, you worry too much. A few drops in the right places and problem neighbors. Well, they solve themselves." Doug laughed. Doug, "Yeah, you're right. It's worked so far." Karen tapped the bottle. Karen, mocking, "You should be thanking me, Doug. If I hadn't stepped in, this whole place would have been ruined by people who don't follow the rules." Doug sighed, shaking his head. "Doug, I swear if that Alex kid doesn't back off, we might need to do something stronger." Karen laughed. Karen, "Patience, dear. Let him exhaust himself. He's already drowning in HOA fines. The stress alone will finish him off." The video ended. I sat there shaking. This wasn't just HOA harassment. This was attempted murder. I forwarded the video to everyone. To police department, local news, HOA board, every neighbor in Pinecrest Gardens. Subject: the truth about Karen and Doug Thompson. Watch now. Me. Attached message. They poisoned my mother, they poisoned others, and they laughed about it. This is who runs your HOA. Send. Within minutes, my phone exploded. Neighbor 1. What the hell? Neighbor 2. Oh my God, this is sick. Neighbor 3. Call the cops right now. The entire community was awake. The HOA was finished. 15 a.m. I stood outside as the red and blue lights flashed down my street. 2 unmarked police cars, 3 black SUVs, and a news van. The officers marched straight to the Thompson house. Officer: "Doug Thompson, Karen Thompson, this is the police. Come out with your hands up." The front door slammed open. Karen stepped out first, still in her silk robe, mascara smeared. Karen, hysterical. "This is illegal! You can't just—" The cop grabbed her arm, yanking it behind her back. Officer: "Karen Thompson, you're under arrest for multiple counts of attempted poisoning and reckless endangerment," she screamed. Doug stumbled out after her, barefoot, his face pale. Doug panicked. I was just following orders. It was her idea." Karen, screeching, "You spineless coward!" Click, click. The handcuffs snapped shut. They were shoved into separate cop cars. The entire neighborhood watched. And then the cheering started. By noon, the news broke. Headline: HOA president and husband arrested for poisoning neighbors. Neighbors rushed to the HOA office. They ripped Karen's rule board off the wall. Someone burned it in the parking lot. The HOA treasurer, Malcolm Reed, resigned on the spot. Neighbor yelling, "Shut this whole thing down." By the end of the day, all board members had resigned. All HOA fines were officially voided. All of Karen's rules were abolished. Pinecrest Gardens was finally free. That night, as I sat on my porch drinking a well-earned beer, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You won this round, but this isn't over." I stared at the message. Me replying, "Oh, it's over, Karen. Enjoy prison. Send." As I hit block, I looked across the street. Neighbors were celebrating. Kids were playing. Dogs were running free. And for the first time in years, the HOA was gone. They thought they could poison my mother and get away with it. Now, they're wearing orange jumpsuits. But my fight didn't just end with their arrest. It changed the entire community forever. 6 months later, the courtroom was packed. Neighbors who once feared speaking up sat shoulder to shoulder. The news cameras were rolling. The judge, an older man with piercing eyes, adjusted his glasses and looked down at the 2 criminals who used to control our neighborhood. Judge: Karen and Doug Thompson, You are hereby sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for multiple counts of poisoning, attempted murder, and reckless endangerment." Gavel slam, Karen screamed. Doug sobbed. Karen, hysterical, "No, this is a mistake. I was a leader. I built that community." Judge, coldly, "Yes, Mrs. Thompson, and now you will sit in a cell and think about how you destroyed it." Guards grabbed them. Doug, whimpering, Karen, do something." Karen, snarling, "I will sue all of you. This isn't over. This isn't—" Doors slammed. It was over for real this time. The very next day, a petition circulated. "We, the residents of Pinecrest Gardens, vote to permanently dissolve the HOA." 87 signatures. Unanimous vote. That night, I stood at the HOA office as volunteers tore down the rule board. Rippy, crack, smash. A bonfire burned bright in the cul-de-sac as residents threw in their violation notices, their unfair fees, their warnings about grass height. The HOA was officially gone, but no rules at all. That wasn't the answer either. Not. Everyone wanted chaos. They just wanted fairness. So we formed a new fair HOA simple guidelines, reasonable fees, a board elected by the people, not ruled by fear. And the first rule we passed? No more petty fines, no more Karen-style harassment, no more dictatorship. This time, we made sure that the community had the power, not one person. I still owned. Clearwater LLC, I could have kept it, could have sold it for a fortune, but I knew what I had to do. Me at a town meeting. This community has suffered enough under people using power for personal gain. That ends today. I donated the water. Company, the residents now controlled it. No more unfair water hikes. All profits went into a medical fund for Karen's victims. For the first time, people cheered for something good. Mum never fully recovered. She survived, but her kidneys were permanently damaged. Dialysis became part of her life. The neighbors wanted to do something for her neighbor at a meeting. Margaret Morrison was one of the few who stood up to Karen, and she paid the price. It's time we honor her. They built a garden, the Helen Morrison Healing Garden, a peaceful place where flowers bloomed, walking paths, benches, a small fountain, and a sign that read, "For those who fought and for those who were hurt." Mum cried when she saw it. Mom, whispering, touching the sign, "Your father would have been so proud of you." I hugged her for the first time in a long time. We felt at peace. And then the gnomes returned. It started small. A single box appeared on our porch. Inside, a ceramic garden gnome holding a tiny sign, "Welcome home." Then another. Then another. By the end of the week, over 50 garden gnomes filled our yard. Neighbor, grinning, "We thought you might want to rebuild your collection." Every single neighbor had donated one. Me, choking up, "You guys didn't have to do this." Elaine, smiling, "Oh, we did, because screw Karen." Everyone laughed. Life moved on. The neighborhood flourished. People planted what they wanted. Kids played outside without fear of noise complaints. But me, I still kept my security cameras up, not because I was scared, but because some lessons you only need to learn once. To anyone watching this video, if you ever find yourself in a neighborhood ruled by an HOA tyrant, don't back down. They might have power, they might have money, they might have connections, but in the end, the truth always wins. And sometimes the best revenge is giving people their freedom back.